It's time for not cells, but genetics. With this video, we're going to learn how we take traits and pass them from generation to generation to generation. But first, let's start out with some of the basics of genetics. First, you need to know what genetics is, and that's the study of heredity. That probably doesn't mean anything, though, because you don't know what heredity is. Heredity is the passage of genetic traits or genetic instructions from one generation, not generation, to the next. Typo. Inherited traits or genetic traits are those characteristics that are genetically inherited or passed from parent to offspring during reproduction. When we talk about things being passed from generation to generation, the things we're talking about is the genetic material, which is the DNA that's found inside the nucleus of a cell. Within the nucleus of a cell, you also find chromosomes, which are made up of tightly wound DNA. DNA, which is just deoxyribonucleic acid, please say that 10 times fast. Deoxyribonucleic acid is the genetic instructions or information. And sections of that DNA that's found in the chromosomes is what we call genes that actually controls the traits we see of an organism. It sounds very confusing, but don't worry, it's not. And to help you out, I want you to draw this picture, which is going to make it seem more accessible. You have your cell, inside is your nucleus, where we find our chromosomes, which are made up of tightly wound DNA, and sections of that DNA is a gene. Still don't have it? Don't worry, we're going to focus on that big time in class. Once we wrap our heads around the different types of genetic material, we're then going to focus on exactly how it gets passed from parent to offspring. So we're going to look at two of the main modes of reproduction, and that's asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction, both of which you've probably heard of before. With asexual reproduction, our offspring actually are produced by only one parent through things like budding, okay, which we'll focus on some more. It's mainly for single-celled organisms like archaebacteria, eubacteria, and protists, but some plants and fungi also reproduce asexually. The offspring are identical. They are clones. There is no variation whatsoever. We call this uniform offspring, which is a result of asexual reproduction where offspring look exactly like their parents. Did I mention clones? Because they're clones! Okay, so if you're not a clone, and if you're not reproduced by one parent, then you are probably reproduced using sexual reproduction, which is offspring produced by two parents when that sperm and that egg get together. Animals reproduce this way, as do many plants and fungi as well. The offspring are diverse. There's lots of variation. Take dogs and cats. I mean, you can't think of all the different combinations of dogs and cats that you're going to get, and you only get that because of the sexual reproduction. So that diverse offspring is a beautiful result of sexual reproduction where the offspring look not just different from the parents, but different from each other as well. Okay, there was your crash course in the beginning of genetics and types of reproduction. We'll go on more after that later. Catch you next time. Don't forget, like and subscribe.